According to Everytown for Gun Safety, since 2013, there have been at least 179 school shootings in America. This equates to an average of one per week. These are not just tragedies you hear on TV. These school shootings are happening all over the country, in your state, and in your city. These children, teenagers, and adults could very well be your family members or friends. I've seen numerous news reports on school shootings, and in preparation for this speech, I had to do more research. I want to share with you the fact that gun violence is a worsening problem in schools. The necessity of reducing the exposure to violence and creating stricter laws, and how these measures will reduce gun violence and allow everyone to feel safer. Let's begin by looking at instances of gun violence that have occurred in schools. Gun violence is a prevalent problem in school systems, endangering the lives of students and faculty members. The Sandy Hook shooting, as described in an article by the Los Angeles Times, occurred at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut in 2012. Gunman Adam Lanza shot 20 first graders and 6 adults. The LA Times also detailed the tragic shooting which took place in 2007 at Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University. The gunman, a 23-year-old Virginia Tech senior, opened fire on campus and killed 32 people and injured 17. The school shooting was the deadliest attack by a single gunman in United States history. In addition, the Los Angeles Times wrote about the shooting that happened in 1999 at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado. Gunmen and students Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold killed 12 students and 1 teacher. The gunman injured over 24 others before taking their own lives. Because there is clearly an issue with gun violence in schools, let's discuss how to put a stop to it. By reducing the exposure to violence and creating stricter laws, gun violence in schools can be drastically decreased. The New York Times explains how exposure to media violence affects behavior. The article describes how many gunmen had one thing in common: a love for video games, which may have fueled their desire to go on a violent rampage. This is more of a problem today because the video games children are playing are more realistic and bloody than ever. Newsmax described the necessity for stricter gun laws. The article explains that most massacres most often use legal weapons, but tougher laws could have possibly prevented these incidents. Gun laws requiring stricter background checks will help keep firearms out of the hands of people who shouldn't own them. Harsher punishments for gun violence can also help the cause. With criminals aware of longer and harsher punishments for gun violence, this could potentially deter them from committing such acts, according to the Trace. Because of these solutions, schools will once again be a safe learning environment. With the reduction of gun violence, children, teachers, and parents will feel more at ease having that themselves and their loved ones will be safe at school. Children won't fear going to school, which will better facilitate their learning. An article by the New York Times shared responses from students and their feelings about mass shootings. Winter, a 15-year-old student in Oregon, wrote, "People in my school talk about where you're probably going to be safe and where you won't be. You'll most likely die in the library. The chemistry lab is probably safe. Fire drills put people outside in lines like sitting ducks. Teachers will better perform their job duties without having to worry about active shooters. The same New York Times article that was previously mentioned also shared response from Jan, 57, a professor at a community college in Massachusetts, who said, "I am afraid of my students. I didn't used to feel this way. I think my anxiety began with the Virginia Tech shootings. Parents will be less anxious about sending their children to school because they'll know that they'll be safe." In an article by Dare to Share, a parent recounted the difference between her school experience and her daughter's by saying, "Most people from my generation were shocked when someone had a knife on campus. We couldn't have even imagined school shootings and bombings in what was previously considered a safe haven in society." Now let's talk about how you can put an end to gun violence in schools. The harsh reality is gun violence is a real problem in today's schools. But by reducing exposure to violence and creating stricter gun laws, the school system can become a safe learning environment where neither students nor teachers feel anxious or uneasy. In order to help put an end to gun violence in our schools, I ask that you do one or both of two things. I ask that you limit your family's exposure to violence, whether it be in movies, TV, or video games, and or write to your local congressman and demand stricter gun laws.